The Lancaster Jane Doe, identified as Alberta Lehman. Alberta was 63 when she, along with her car, simply disappeared. It's always a bigger puzzle when the car, as well as the human, are missing, and they are often found in a body of water. More so now than ever since we have diving teams and more advanced sonar equipment that help find these people. It's always a little overwhelming to think somebody was out there in the water all along while families were left wondering where the person went. In this case, Alberta Lehman had been gone since 1978, and every day of those 44 years, her daughter suffered and wanted to know what happened to her mom. She spoke to the news about how it felt when they found her car submerged in August of 2021 in the river in Lancaster, New Hampshire.
The Gorham mother's car was discovered last month in 14 feet of water, upside down and partially buried on the bottom. Her daughter Nancy has stood on the shore during these difficult days.
I have driven past her for these 43 years and never knew.
They say they have the same goal as the family, closure.
Hopefully it's her and we can finally put her to rest with my dad.
Authorities confirmed that Alberta was driving a Pontiac Le Mans that was found by accident by New Hampshire Fish and Game's remote sonar team during a training session in 2021. A dive team promptly investigated and pulled the license plate of the car, and in doing so solved an open mystery, although it would not be until May of 2022 that her identity was confirmed. They say the circumstances were not suspicious. It's been ruled it was an accident, caused by a motor vehicle collision and multiple blunt force injuries. Alberta Lehman was missing for 44 years. She went unidentified for 9 months. The Mitchell County Jane Doe, identified as Angela Bradbury. Angela was 29 and last seen in Mason City, Iowa, on April 6, 2021. She seemingly disappeared, that is, until a woman was found near the Greenbelt Trail in rural Mitchell County in July of 2021. They've yet to release the cause of death. If you have any information on this matter, please call the number on your screen. Angela Bradbury went unidentified for 9 months. The Palm Beach County Jane Doe, identified as Susan Poole. Susan Poole was just 15 when she dropped out of high school in Wilton Manors, Florida. Susan had moved into a trailer with her friend in a trailer park that was located near Fort Lauderdale in 1972. Then suddenly she just disappeared, although all of her clothes and even her pocketbook were still at home. She had left and taken off before, so her family wasn't sure it was against her will. She had a history of hitchhiking, and of course, this was 1972. It was completely normal to hitch and normal to pick up hitchhikers. What Susan's family didn't know is that about 18 months earlier, in 1974, sheriff's deputies were called to a remote location in Palm Beach County, as skeletal remains were discovered tied up with wire to a tree in the mangroves. The cause of death wasn't able to be determined. Back then, of course, DNA wasn't even on the horizon yet, so they immediately hit a brick wall. No hits were found. Also, much of the DNA processing at one point was of a type that required comparison rather than waiting for a hit. That's why some John and Jane Does have DNA on file, but require more testing for genealogical searches. Othram Labs, who has highlighted so much on this channel, contacted the sheriff's office to offer their services in this case, saying they believed they could solve it, and solve it they did. In March of 2022, they were able to provide the sheriff with both names of the victim's mother and that of her siblings. And with that, Susan had her name again. They suspect they know who took her life, believing it's likely Gerard Schaefer. Schaefer's job was to protect and serve the community. Instead, he proved to be a vile man who targeted teen girls. He is suspected of targeting as many as 26 women, but he only found himself incarcerated for 2, who were aged 16 and 17. It hardly feels like justice for Susan and all the other women whose lives he took. It turns out that Schaefer was actually given an internship as a teacher before becoming a police officer, a sheriff's deputy. It's actually very common for predators to try to choose careers or volunteer opportunities where they're in close proximity to the age group they're interested in. Sure enough, he found himself teaching high school. However, the staff at the high school soon realized he was thoroughly lacking in knowledge and ability. However, he did offer something to the school. It was his arrogant attitude, which made nobody like him. All of this sealed the deal pretty quickly. They informed him he was unsuitable for the job, and his internship was rescinded early. Unfortunately for the community he lived in, he applied to be a deputy, and he used his position to pick up hitchhiking teens while on duty. That's also why I believe Susan may have hitched a ride with this specific psycho, and she likely felt safe doing so. This is the second police officer who had a history of this that Crime Hound has covered. Michelle Boucher was known as the Blue Earth Jane Doe, who also hitchhiked, and she was picked up by a police officer. Thankfully, both of these men found themselves in prison, where cops are not welcomed. I will leave his history at this. I'm not going to report on his crimes. I have no desire to glorify this miserable, sick, vile man. I can, however, say with some satisfaction that Schaefer also no longer walks the earth. He was born in 1946 and could still be alive. However, he died in 1995 at the age of 46, and he met an extremely brutal and fitting end, in prison at the hand of another inmate. It's worth noting, too, that the final reason for this brutal end was a ridiculous fight over the last cup of hot water. The mother of one of his victims also found it fitting, saying she'd long believed it would happen, but she just wished it had happened earlier. Susan Poole, now forever frozen at 15, would have been 65 years old this year. Her mother is in her 90s and thankfully was still alive to find out what had happened to her beloved daughter. She also said that it gives some semblance of closure to her and her other children, as they waited so long to find out what happened to Susan. The sheriff's office is hoping to locate and speak with 3 of Poole's friends, Julie Hunt, Michelle Williamson, and Greg Anderson, to learn more about what may have happened to her. They are at a standstill until they speak to these 3 individuals. If you know where they are, please call the number on your screen. Susan Gail Poole went unidentified for 47 years. Thank you everybody for watching and listening. If you could help to get the channel noticed by the YouTube algorithm by liking and leaving a comment, even if you can just leave a thumbs up or some emoji, it counts as engagement. It would be so appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks everyone. Take care of yourselves and each other.